Begin the current Daf, Mesechta Kesuvos Daf Chabez, begin 4 lines down the top of the Yomim, where we first finish off the conversation from the previous Daf, which we were speaking about when there's 3 people sitting down to be Mekayim Ashtar, which we said that it shouldn't look like it's false because of one of them having died. We finish up that conversation. Something we're going to discuss in today's Daf, starting from the next Mishnah, is the concept we've spoken about a lot in this Mesechta and previous parak about Pesha also a Pesha Hibtur. It's called a Migui. That since I'm the one that said that this is forbidden, well then I'm the one that could say that it's permitted because I could qualify my statement to tell you how it's not forbidden. The concept of Shavya L'Nafshi Chaticha D'Yisur is Shavya, he makes it L'Nafshi for himself, a Chaticha, piece D'Yisur that's forbidden. Which means to say that you can say that this is forbidden and your belief for yourself like 100 Eidim. However, we'll see in today's daf something called a masla. A masla is an excuse, is an explanation about what you said, why you lied, and then you'll be believed that it's not going to be forbidden. So we get the current, some of the cases we'll see actually are also when we have contradictory testimony. Shnaim Meis, Shnaim Meis, or Shnaim Niskarsha, Shnaim Niskarsha. 2 witnesses say that he died, 2 said he didn't die, 2 said he divorced it, 2 said he didn't, and then we're going to see also regarding actually changes differently, interestingly, if it's Eid Echad Oim Meis and Echad Loy Meis versus Echad Oim Niskarsha and Echad Oim Niskarsha might be different, even though it's 1 against 1. But regarding dying versus divorcing, we'll see that interesting phenomenon in the Gemara that might be a difference. So begin the current daf. We're finishing up the conversation from yesterday. 4 lines down on the top of the Yom, Daf Chabez and Aleph. So Amar B'Zeira, because we had been speaking about this halacha regarding Kim Shtaris, which we talk about the courts verifying and authorizing. So Rabbi Zeira says, Ha Milsa, this teaching, what I'm about to tell you, Rabbi Abba Shemili, I heard this from Rabbi Abba, and V'ilab Rabbi Abba de Menakwe, if not for Rabbi Abba de Menakwe, who reminded me at a later point in time, Shechachasa, I would have forgotten. What's this teaching? So as follows, Gimel Sheyash V'L'Kaimas Ashtar. You have 3 people sitting to validate a document, a bezdin. And this is what we had been speaking about the previous time. And one of them died before they got a chance to sign. So what they have to write is, we were sitting as a group of 3 because Kim Shtaris requires 3. Now the problem is that someone's going to see only 2 people signed. He's going to say, hey, they validated with two people, with 2 judges, and that's not valid. So you have to write, we were 3, and one of them is not here anymore. However, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, he says, but if let's say they would write, this document, Nofikli Kadmona Beidina, came in front of us, a court, then then you don't have to write anymore that we were 3 and now we're 2, because it's not called Beidina less than 3. So that itself would be proving that we were 3. I mean, the whole problem is we're concerned that they're going to see only 2 signatures, they're going to think, oh, 2 is okay. No, they'll know it was 3 because you're going to write, we were a bezdin. Meaning you have to say we were 3, and then one's not here anymore. No, you don't have to write that. If you just write it came in front of the bezdin, they will know that there was 3. I only 2 assigned. Yeah, again, 1 died, or whatever, this and that, and therefore that would be sufficient. But the Gemara asks on that. It says, how do you know? But doing bezdin chatzapu. Maybe this was called an audacious bezdin because of the Shmuel. Meaning the Amar Shmuel said a halacham shnaim shadan. 2 people, if they judge a court case, the name din, it's considered a valid court case. There's just called what's called a mechutzav, an audacious court, which is you could do 2, but we prefer 3. So you see that they could be done with 2. So maybe they're going to think that this was done with 2 because that is considered bezdin. How does it have to write that we came in front of Beidina? Says it says by the document Beidina de Rabbana Ashi. It's in front of the courts of the Rabbi Ravashi, meaning which Rashi just says that's just the Urcha de Milsa is just picking what's a common case because he was Rosh Hashiva Masa Machasya, where in the days of Nachman Yitzchak who's saying with his teaching. But most definitely it could be any great rabbi. But the point is such a court like Ravashi would never have done it with 2 because that's only Bezdin Chatzah, and they wouldn't have done it. It says but maybe the rabbis of the court of Ravashi, who maybe they hold like Shmuel. So even though Ravashi himself wouldn't have done it, but maybe the secondary judges, maybe they would have done it. So the Gemara it says that the Rabbana Ashi, that Ravashi, he's the one who required us and he authorized us to do this kiyum. since Rav Ashi himself was getting involved, he most definitely would have done it only with 3, and therefore, even if you don't say we were 3 and now we're 2, and then you sign with 2, even if you just say it came in front of us to court that Rav Ashi told us to convene, that itself would obviously tell us that it was 3, and therefore that would be sufficient. You wouldn't have to be concerned that people might think it could be done with 2. Now we continue with the halacha, the next Mishnah, which continues the theme of the previous Mishnah, and we many times in this parak already, and the previous parak, that we had this concept known as pesha asim. So it says the Mishnah the following case. So a woman comes along and she tells us, I want you to know, I was a married woman, but I was divorced. So the man that she's believed to be permitted to marry other men, because pesha asim, the mouth that made it forbidden, because of when she says I was married, so now she created an issur that she's the Isha. But that same mouth, who pesha is the mouth that permits it. Yes, I was married. I'm qualifying that. I got divorced. It's not permitted. So she's believed. But what changes is, but let's say we have witnesses that know she was married. Of course, Mrs. So-and-so, we remember her. She was married to your uncle or whatever. So we have witnesses. But then she says, she says, I was divorced. The witness says, I don't know. I never heard about any divorce. I don't know. And she says, yes, I was divorced. Then she's not believed to now go get married to other people because she doesn't have a pesha us anymore. We have a chazaka, we know from Eidim that she was married. Now she's coming to say I was divorced. Meifetesa, how could we go ahead and believe her necessarily what she's saying? Another similar case is Amr Nishbasi. Let's say she says, I was taken into captivity amongst the idol worshippers. But, meaning we generally presume that if a woman is captivity, that captors are not necessarily your friendliest people and that they're going to treat her with ultimate respect. They're going to defile her. But we didn't know she was taking captivity. She says, I was taking captivity, but I am pure that I didn't have the idol worshippers be with me. So the man is, so she is believed and she's going to be permitted to a kohen, because for a kohen she would be forbidden because of having bia to someone that's asur to her, which is a non-Jew who has bia with a woman. He makes her pasul lekahuna, but she's believed that no one had bia with her. The mouth that made it forbidden me, we didn't know she was taking captivity. She says, oh, you heard about that thing that there was a few women or whatever, that was me. But I want you to know that nothing happened. Okay. We wouldn't have known anything otherwise, so we believe you that what you're saying is true. But let's say we have witnesses says, yes, we knew she was taking captivity, but we don't know what happened with her. The Yomi says to her, and the I'm pure, well, in the menace. We don't believe her, because why should we believe her? We suspect that this actually did happen. And her word is not believed in regards to this fact. Now, but, says the Mishnah, we had 2 cases. The Mishnah ends off, and it's not clear what this final statement is going on. The Mishnah is, but if, let's say, she was already married, then Bo Eidim, then witnesses came, the Gemara is going to explain, is it going on the racial or the Sefer? We had 2 cases, one about I was married and I was divorced, and one about I was taking captivity, but I was tahar, and we believe her. But let's say after she was married to the Kohen or to whoever it is, then witnesses came, then she doesn't have to leave that marriage because she already got married, and therefore she doesn't have to leave. Now, the Gemara gives the source, some of the Basi, says, we didn't know this concept that we've said quite often already, La pesha aser, that the mouth that makes it forbidden, who a pesha hitter is the mouth that makes it permitted. How do we know that min hatar? What's the biblical source for this concept? So says the Gemara, Shenema, says the pasuk in the Var. Pasuk there begins that the father of the girl tells to the elders, "As biti nosati lisha zel isha." My daughter I've given to this man as a wife. So the Gemara makes an interesting point. If you would stop the pasuk at the word lo ish, I gave my daughter to a man, it's asra. He now makes her forbidden on everyone in the world because we don't know who it's to. When he then says hazeh, this man, hitira, he permits her to that man. That's the pesha asa, pesha heter. That the mouth that made it forbidden when he says I married her off. Stop. Okay, now everyone's forbidden to her, even that guy, everyone. But he says, but there he's qualifying that and saying it, but this man. And therefore, you see that hapesha is hapesha. Now, the Gemara asks, Lama likra, well, why do you need a pasuk for it? Svari, it's logic, and this is a well-known concept. You don't need a pasuk for something that's illogical. So, hu asur who sharila? Meaning, like, all along, no one ever thought about that for a migui, that you need to have a biblical source for such a halacha. So why do you need a pasuk to tell me this simple idea that if he's saying it's forbidden, we're going to believe the person is permitted? So the Gemara says you're right. Ella, truth is you don't need a pasuk. That's a svara. Everyone can understand that rationally that you would be believing such a case. Why do you need this pasuk for? What is it teaching us? How do we know that a father believed to make his daughter forbidden when she's a minor or a nara, when he has the ability to get her engaged, as the Gemara says in Peknash and Espatata? How do we know that if, let's say, he says, I got her engaged to that person, that is believed to make her forbidden to everyone, min ha-Torah, from biblical halacha? We are taking discussions, well, that also should be obvious. But al kaponim, the question is that how do you know this halacha that a father can make his daughter forbidden? Says the Gemara, it says in the pasuk is beating the sati leish. So what do you see from this pasuk? That obviously the handover is dependent on him, and the pasuk believes him to go ahead and say that, and he's authorized to say that. So therefore, you see that a father could make his daughter forbidden min ha-Torah by saying that I'm marrying her off because the father has the ability to marry her off, and therefore that's what the pasuk comes to teach us. Question is hazel amali. What does hazeh come to teach us? Because you told me that you don't need it to teach me pesha asa pesha heter, because you told me that's a svara. So then what is hazeh? Meaning, speaking hatal ish, I understand you're saying he has the authority to say who he married her off to, and he's going to make her forbidden on everyone else. But what does hazeh come to teach us? Well, it's not teaching you, of course, this man or any man, whichever one it is. But he's not really teaching you anything by saying this. So the Gemara, that's right. And by the way, that you need for different teaching. Like the Tanya Rabbi Yena, as Rabbi Yena taught a brayso, Tanya Rabbi Yena, he said, what's that pasuk talking about? That pasuk is talking about the Maitzi Shema. As speaking is the father says, what do you mean I gave this my daughter to this man? And what's actually the last word of the pasuk? It's Vayisno Eha, but he hates her, and therefore that's why he's spreading rumors about her, and therefore he's a Maitzi Shema. What Hazeh comes to teach us is Hazeh b'lo yavam. It's only for this man who married her who that Locha Maitzi Shema is going to apply to, but not to the yavam. So let's say if the yavam, the brother-in-law, when his brother dies without any children, he spreads rumors regarding his brother's marriage that's saying, what do you mean? This woman, when my brother married her, so he doesn't have, she didn't have, whether the case is that he's marrying her for the first time because the brother never had be with her, and you say, what is this? This is the Lemetzas Lebet Chabasulim. So the point is that since the father did not give her over to him, he's the brother of the person that his father gave him over to. He's not going to have the halachas of Moitzi Shema to get punished with the penalty of 100 silver coins, as is obvious from the Gemara later on Perek Nara. That's what Hazeh is coming to say. That Hazeh is only when the father says, I give my daughter over to this man. He didn't give him over to the brother-in-law. So although the brother-in-law, let's say they died from Erison, and she's doing Yibum, so she never had Biyah before, and he finds it like Matzas Lebitcha B'Sulam, he's not going to have the halacha of Moitzi Shema. It's only on the man that I gave my daughter to, not to the brother. That's what Hazeh is coming to teach us. You're right, the halacha of HaPesha, so Pesha Ita, I don't need a pasuk. Slarihi, Lamali Kra, don't bring me a pasuk. I know from my own logic, the bunch of them gave us our own machshavas to understand things that don't need to be supported with the Torah. Now, relating to the halacha of the Mishnah, says the Gemara, another case discussing these concepts of Pesha Asa. A woman says that I'm a married woman. And then she says, I'm single. And then she's believed. The Gemara says, how can you say that? But she made herself a prohibited entity. I mean, the woman testified that she's married. She herself is believed for herself like 180. And she's saying, I'm married. If I'm married, that means to say, I'm forbidden to all men. But then you say she's single and you're saying she's believed. How could she believe? She already made herself into a shtik chazer. She already made herself into something that's forbidden. How could she now go ahead and say that I'm permitted? So Amar Rava Bar Rav Huna says, talk about where she gave an amasla. Amasla is like a explanation, a reasoning. Why did she originally say that I was engaged, I'm a married woman? She gave a good explanation for that. That is why she believed to say, but no, the truth is I'm really single. Because if not, you're not believing. If you made a chazaka of a deva iser, you as yourself cannot just permit it, but you give an excuse, you explain. Then she'll be believed. And Tanya Malka actually, then the Bryce actually spells this out. Bryce says, if Amra Eishas Ishan, if she says I'm a married woman, and then she says, I'm single, and then she's not believed. So the Bryce says she's not believed. But it does say the halacha that we said from the previous Bryce, because it continues. But let's say she gives an explanation for her words, then she's believed. What does that mean? So the Bryce illustrates with a story. There was a story with a great woman. What made her great? She was great with beauty. She was a very beautiful woman. And everyone was dying to get her hand in marriage. She said to them, sorry, I'm already taken. I'm already engaged. Then, sometime later, she goes and she gets engaged to someone else. So everyone's up in arms. What is this? Well, we thought you were engaged. The sage said to them, what do you see fit to do like this? That you told them when you're engaged and suddenly you're getting engaged? She said to them, in the beginning, very unsavory characters were trying to get married to me. They were liking me on whatever platform I had. And I said, sorry, I'm taken. I put on the ring. I don't want this attention because these people were unsavory characters. But now that the real guys are coming out, because they're obviously not out for the wrong things. They don't care. They're treating me with respect. I'm out when they got engaged. And so this halacha regarding, hey, she already said she was married. Now she's going to go get married to someone else. How can we let that? Hello, Rabbi Acha Sar Ba'usha. So Rabbi the Sar of the Bira, he brought this up in front of the sages in Usha. But when they said, yes, if she went and she gave, since she gave an excuse, she gave an explanation for her words, the men that she's believed, and therefore she believed that her new engagement is valid, because the fact that she said she was married, it was just to get off these characters from her case. Similarly, the Gemara says another related case. Shmuel asked from Rav the following halacha. And this is Shmuel, as the Gemara is going to illustrate the story. So Shmuel is asking this from Rav. Amrav, let's say a woman says to Me'ani, she says to her husband that I am a nida. And then she comes back and she says, no, Tahirani, it's not true. I was not a nida, and I'm actually tired. Now, what's the halacha? So she really made a shav enough shechadich, so she really said I'm a nida. And then a few hours later, she's like, no, I wasn't a nida, or whatever. So what's the halacha? So Malay says, them abazu, here also, it's the same thing. In Nashnam, she gives, as you continue in base, amaslo ledvarao. If she gives a good explanation for why she said it, then she's believed. Now, Tana minei arboim zimin, Shmuel learned this halacha from Rav 40 times. And still Shmuel did not do and practice this halacha by himself, which Rashi says, one time his wife told him this, and she didn't give an explanation why she said this, but he still removed himself from her until she went and she tabled in the mikveh. Now Taisa actually brings that the story from Rabbi Chanal, who brings from the Yerushalmi, that Shmuel wanted to be with his wife. So she said to me, sorry, I'm a nida. Oop, nida, okay. Next day she says, I'm tired. She says, yesterday you told me you're man, today you're tired. What's going on over here? So she said that I didn't have energy. Lahavas bichela. At that time, Kershaita. So that's what I said. I said, I'm a nida. So he came to ask Rav, and Rav said, yes, she gives a good excuse, she's believed. And still Shmuel didn't want to practice this, and they still waited. You said, you tell me you wait till you go to the mikvah, whatever. Shita Mugabetzis doesn't like this. He says a different story about what actually happened. But that was like the woman, uses these tactics. They say, I'm a nida, whatever, and fine. But again, if she gives a good explanation, officially the Shita Mugabetzis story was that he used to pass her a cup of wine, and then this time she didn't take it. And then he thought, okay, that's what it meant. She's like, no, it was because of something else. And he's like, no, whatever. He didn't want to practice in himself. But again, if there's namaslo, then we will believe the woman why she said that she's a tamein. It's the same idea. Now, going back to the idea about the woman being permitted to get married based on testimony, not so much now regarding her own testimony, now regarding other people's words. What's if Shnayim Omer Meis? Two people come along and say that, look, her husband died, which allows her to get remarried. Two witnesses come along and says, no, Loy Meis, he didn't die. So we have 2 against 2. Shnayim Omer Niskarsha, let's say another same case. 2 witnesses say, oh, he divorced her. Shnayim Omer Niskarsha, 2 witnesses say, no, he didn't divorce her. So again, it's 2 against 2. That makes sense. She can't get married. Why not? Because you're really left with status quo, which the chazaka that you're Eishes Ish. Now, if she does get married, Loy Teitze, she doesn't have to leave that marriage, which is more later they're going to ask. Why not? Why wouldn't you have to leave the marriage? It's trey. They basically cancel each other out. You remain with a suffix Issa Dairaisa Eishes Ish. Why would you not have to leave? But Rav Nachman, he says Teitze. He says no, and that makes sense. He would have to leave the marriage. Now, but he qualifies his own teaching. He says, when did I say she has to leave? Is Bisman Shabo Eidim. If the witnesses came along, the one who said that he didn't die, and then the Achkarness is only then did she go ahead and get married. So what are you doing getting married? You have a trey. But he himself agrees. If let's say she got married, because there were 2 witnesses that he died, and then 2 witnesses come along after she already married and says, hey, what are you doing? He never died. Like they say, then she doesn't leave the marriage because she got permitted. She got married in a permissive way. But the Gemara asks, on really both of these cases, why not? Why didn't she leave? Mechti, let's see, trey ninu, it's 2 against 2. Habola basham talikoy. So every time she has bia now, it's a suspended asham because it's a suffix kares. Which tries to discuss it according to opinions, but it's something at least a suffix isser that you're having every single time, which is potential for asham tali. So how can you go ahead? It's trey. How is this new couple staying married and having bia? So Rav Sheshes says, I'll tell you, this is Lechel Meidau. We're talking about where she gets married to one of our witnesses who said that he died. So Asham Tali is only someone that he has anxiety about this, and he said, I don't know, did I not? Bring Asham Tali. This guy is saying, I know, I saw him dead. And he's one of the witnesses says that he died. He doesn't bring Asham Tali. So therefore, it's not a problem. But the Gemara says, but he grew for Asham Tali Kam, but the woman herself, she who married one of the witnesses, she doesn't know this for sure. So she would have to bring Asham Tali. How's she getting married? She just takes 2 to tango. How is she, in her part, not doing a suffix yisur? So no, by marriage barley, it's talking about where she says, I'm also confident. I'm not afraid. Because had he been alive, he would have been here already. The fact that he's not here, I know for sure he must be dead. And he's not one of these guys who just runs off and never comes back. I know my husband. And therefore, she doesn't bring Asham Tali either. And therefore, that's why it's not a problem, the fact that it's trey. Because trey would only make it as a suffix if you're not sure. But since he and she are both definite, therefore, they wouldn't have to leave that marriage. Now, Rabbi Yechanan, what seems like now actually here from Rabbi Yechanan is actually seems to be we'll see exactly how to qualify his teaching. His machlekes how to qualify Rabbi Yechanan saying. But he says, first the case that we mentioned before, and then he says it's slightly different halacha. So Shnayim Omer Meis. Again, if 2 witnesses say that he did die, for Shnayim Omer Meis 2 says that he didn't die, Hariz Lo Tanasim. Halacha is you not get married. Not everyone agrees to when it's trey. We don't let you initially get married. Machlekes is vemnissus. If she did get married, what's the halacha? So here Rabbi Yechanan says the Tana Kama. Let Loy Teitze that they don't have to leave that marriage. Now let's say Shnayim Omer Niskarsha. Let's say 2 said that he divorced her. But Shnayim Omer Lo Niskarsha, and 2 says that he didn't divorce her. Okay, everyone agrees that Hariz Lo Tanasim. They shouldn't get married. But here is where it's get interesting. Vemnissus Teitze. So it's on this regard that he holds like Reb Menachem Reb Yosi, that if you got married, you do have to leave. So Reb Yechanan is really half and half. Regarding Meis, he holds like Tana Kama. Regarding Niskarsha, he's like Menachem Reb Yosi. So the Gemara wonders, Maish narration, Maish no Sefer, why is Reb Yechanan differentiating between the cases of if 2 said dead and 2 said not dead, versus 2 said divorced and 2 said not divorced? By one of them he holds Loy Teitze, which is by the case of Mes, and one of them he holds Teitze, which is by the case of divorce. Why is he differentiating when those other Tanaim did not differentiate? So the Gemara actually gives 3 different approaches how to explain this teaching. So Abaya says, Kirgava, you have to explain this opinion of Rabbi Yechanan be'ed echad. It's not like we had said it that there was two said this and two said that. No, it's one said this and one said that. Why? So we'll see. Now the Gemara is going to say something interesting. When one witness said that he died, so there he's not really like one, because the rabbis believe that Eid Echad, to say the husband died, like two witnesses. As the Gemara says, because for aguna purposes, we wanted the woman to be able to remarry. Let's say one guy is the only guy who saw he died. So since we were stringent on the woman at the end, that hey, I just want you to know, if your husband's really alive, you're going to be usher to Labal and Labal everyone. So we were leaning on her in the beginning, and we said, okay, even if there's one aid, we're going to believe him like two, and you're going to have to get remarried. We could do like Ula said, because Ula says, wherever the Torah believes one witness, which Torah discusses is why we're picking this case, when we're talking about rabbinic versus biblical, when do we believe one like two? But we see that the Torah will believe, and here rabbinically, Torah will believe one aid. We consider it as if it's two witnesses. Now, what comes out is as follows. Since we're believing that aid echad like he's two witnesses, because Mishum Meguna would make him, we say that, okay, we're going to believe him even though it's only one aid. So then, when this one witness says that he didn't die, him we never give on the monus of two. When he says the husband didn't die, it's like a regular aid echad. We don't believe one in the place of quote unquote two, because that one that says mace is two. So it's one against two. So we're going to believe the one who says that he died, and therefore, emnisis leiteitze. Unlike that of Gershon, as we can explain in a moment. But the Gemara says, wait a second, if that's the case, then why are you saying only if they got married, she doesn't have to leave? What do you mean? When you have two against one, we believe the two. So even initially, you should allow her to get remarried when it's this one against one, because it's really two against one. Why are you saying only after the fact that she got married, like Teitzi, she even initially allowed to get married? Well, no, that Mishum de Ravasi. That's because Ravasi is teaching Yavamis in the second parak. Then Ravasi says that Pasuk initially says, Hasten emcha ikshras per, remove from yourself the twisting of the mouth, and the foreign tongue, the lips, you should distance from yourself, meaning, Lamaisa, there are some who are saying, or at least one person saying he's not dead. And therefore it's not appropriate to get remarried if it's really one against one. Although halachically we're going to consider that one as two and it's two against one. Otherwise, if one guy's saying toit, one guy's saying not toit, you're just going to go ahead and get remarried. And people are going to start murmuring, saying, oh, this woman is being mazan or whatever, this and that. And therefore it's only b'di evid that we say that loy teitze. But it makes sense why loy teitze, because it's really two against one. On the other hand, seifa, the last case Rabbi Shloimy spoke about, of when one witness says that he divorced her. One witness says that he did not divorce her. So that's one against one, because here, Travayu, both of them in this case, the Eshish is Komisadi. They're both testifying that she was a married woman, obviously, because if you're saying that they were divorced, so you're saying that she was married. Now, the Haidi comes out that the one that's saying that she's divorced, he's one, in a sense, it's two. Because why is it two? Because he's also testifying that she was married. So both are saying that she was married, and only one is saying that she was divorced. So it's one of Nizgasha versus two of marriage, which let's discuss that also, that the fact that he's the one that's making it, they wanted to say Nigo, Peshaz, or whatever, it's not upon him. But the point is that it's two that's saying she's married, and one again saying that's not. And that's why by Nizgasha it's going to be Teitze, because two against one the other way. So that's why that explains why Rabbi Yochanan differentiated between Abaya when you have one saying this way and one saying that way. Between the case of Mes, creates a Niskasha, because it's almost the exact opposite. By Mes, we believe the one that says he's dead like two, versus by Niskasha, since both are saying that she was married, the one that said Loi Niskasha is really like two, and the one that saying Niskasha is like one. So it's two against one in opposite ways, and that's what's going to have different halachas. That's how Abai explains halacha. But Rav Amma, he gives a different interpretation. He says, no, really, it's like we read the case originally by Rabbi Yochanan, that he's not talking about one against one, it's really two against two. But then we had a question, we said, wait a second, so if it's two against two, Rabbi Yochanan's he's like, not like the Tana Kama, not real busy, he's half and half. He says, well, yeah. He preferred the opinion of the Tana of Menachem regarding divorce, that even if she got married, she has to leave the marriage. But he didn't see fit his opinion, rather he had like the Tana Kama regarding the case of death. So the Gemara explained, my time, what's the reason? Why does he prefer one over the other in the different cases? Because regarding Misa, regarding the claim about the husband being dead, if the husband's going to subsequently come with his own 2 feet, and she can't refute and say, no, you're dead. So therefore, if not for the fact that she was definite and clear that he died, she'd be afraid and she wouldn't get married. So therefore, we are believing her bari to allow her to stay married, because if she wasn't really definite, she wouldn't have taken such a risk, because he's going to walk with his own 2 feet and she's going to be up the creek. Whereas Gerushin, if let's say he would come along and he would say, no, I didn't divorce you, she could refute him. She could say, no, it's not true, you did divorce me. And therefore, if you're going to permit her to stay married, she's going to rely on the fact that, I'll refute him, because she is going to get married based on these witnesses out of doubt. And she's not afraid to maybe do all the due diligence, because she's like, I'll just lie. I'll tell him, no, you did divorce me. And therefore, we don't really rely on her bari. We don't really rely that she did due diligence and she's definite that she knows that she got divorced from him, because she's going to say, prove me wrong. I have witnesses says that I was divorced. I'm like, yeah, even the witnesses say I'm going to get married, because she could refute him. She could lie to his face. And therefore, that's the difference between mess and gerushin. Because mess you can't refute. So we're like, she must be telling the truth, because she's going to walk in 2 weeks from now and she's like, wait a minute, you said he was dead. You said that you know for sure and he's alive. Whereas gerushin, she's like, even if he comes along, I'll lie. I say, no, you did divorce me. And therefore, we don't believe her. Not assuming that she's bar. The Gemara says, really? Is that really what you're saying, that by gerushin, you're saying that she could refute him, and therefore we don't really believe her that she's doing due diligence, because she'll just lie to his face? Would a woman be so audacious, have such chutzpah? Rav Nuna says, if a woman says to her husband, you divorced me, she's believed. Why is she believed? Because we have a presumption that a woman would not have the audacity, the brazenness in front of her husband. And if she's saying it, she must be believed. So how can you tell me we don't believe this woman, because she's going to have the chutzpah to tell her husband in her face, look me in the eye and say that, and she can say, yeah, you divorced me 3 weeks ago, you gave me late at night, you were in a bad mood, and you gave me the get, and this night you divorced me. So, we actually believe him, because she would not have the audacity. So how can you say that we're afraid that she's lying because she didn't do it because she's relying on the fact that I'll just refute him? The woman would not have that azus. Says no. When do we say the woman would not have that brazenness? It's like an Aiden become a silent. When there's no witnesses that are supporting her. So a woman with her husband to stand up to him in that way, she wouldn't be so brazen. But when there's witnesses who are supporting her, if you call the cases Shnaim Nizgarshav and Nizgarshav. So she has Reuben and Shimon that are saying, yeah, we saw her being divorced. Yeah, and you have the women that are being supported by all the people that are, saying, yeah, you do this, you stand up for your rights, and she's being supported. Oh, now she's going to stand up to her husband and she's going to look him straight in the eye and say, yeah, you divorced me. And she's looking back to these 2 guys on the side, right. So therefore, then she actually would have the azaz. And again, that's why we're concerned that if it's regarding the case of Niskarsha, that she maybe is not buried, and she's just relying on the fact that these 2 witnesses are supporting her and giving her all that emotional support. There is why we're concerned. But you're right, a woman herself, with no support, with no aidim, telling her husband, Gerishtani, we would believe because she would not have that asus. Now, a third approach, Rav Yama, he says, going to Amri Aidim. It's where, for example, the witnesses said, Achshav, now, today, is mace. Achshav Girsha, it's now that he divorced her. Meaning, we have this machlekes between the Eidim, is specifically that it happened today. Today he divorced, or today he died. So that explains the Gemara. Misa lek levruda. Regarding death, there's no way of verification. If they said that he drowned, today we went boating and he drowned, or a lion ate him, we cannot verify it. So therefore initially she should not get married. But if she got married, she's not going to have to leave like the Rabban. And when she gets married to one of the witnesses, so he's buried and she's buried. So therefore, since we can't verify any other way, so we're going to say that that the halach is going to be like Teitzeh. So meaning like the Rabbanan, not like Rav Nachman bar Biesi. But the question we had was, what's with Gerushin? Rabbanan also hold the Gerushin that she is believed. We believe the witnesses. Meaning loy teitze by gerushin too. Why here does Rabbi Yochanan say teitze? Because it's specifically we have it today. So gerushin ikela bruri, they can verify that. We tell her, look, if it's true that this is what happened. Show us your get. Because in such a short amount of time, she's not believed to say I lost my get. That's why it's going to be teitze, because she's not producing a get. So according to the third approach, it's really a very technical explanation about why Rabbi Yochanan is differentiating. Really, in principle, he holds a drabban, which is that if there's no way of verifying, and there's 2 against 2, and she says I'm confident, and one of the agents says also barely, so fine, we let them stay married. The only question was then why did Rabbi Yochanan differentiate regarding the case of gerushin? The third approach is saying, because it's you saying it happened today. Happened today, then what did you get? I mean, come on, you didn't lose your get in 3 hours. You're not that clumsy, right? So therefore, that's why that would be erased, and therefore we wouldn't believe, and therefore she wouldn't be. We would require teitze. But the gerushin versus misa, what's there to do? What's there to prove? What do you want from me? We don't know what happened, and it could be that it happened a few hours ago, and therefore they said yeah he died, and they said no, and he's confident. The 1-8 and she's confident, like yeah, for sure we would have been alive, would have came back, etc., etc. Yeah, but that's why it's going to be loy teitze, in contrast to the gerushin is going to be teitze. Anytime, those things.
Well, where's get?